Introduction: The quiet power of deep attachment. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, please subscribe my channel and like my video. Thanks. There's a strange kind of attachment that never announces itself. No confession, no dramatic words, no I miss you texts, just quiet signals. Maybe it's someone who never fully leaves your life, someone who watches from a distance, someone whose presence feels felt even in silence. You catch it in the way they look at you, the way they remember small details, the way they react when you pull away. Psychology says deep attachment doesn't always speak, it shows. And once you recognize these signs, you'll realize something unsettling but beautiful. They've been emotionally connected to you long before you noticed. Sign 1. They remember the smallest details about you, even the ones you forgot. There's a moment most people miss. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with a confession. It doesn't look like love. It happens quietly. You mention something once, casually, almost carelessly, a story, a preference, a passing comment you didn't think mattered, and weeks, sometimes months later, they bring it up. Not to impress you, not to prove anything, just sign 1. They remember the smallest details about you naturally. And you pause for a second and think, how did they remember that? Psychology says this is not accidental. The human brain is extremely selective. It forgets most of what we hear. Most conversations fade within hours. Details blur, words dissolve. So when someone remembers your smallest details, it's because your presence has emotional weight in their mind, not logical weight. Emotional weight. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface. When someone is deeply attached to you, their brain tags information related to you as important for emotional survival. These details don't just enter their memory, they get stored. And storage only happens when emotion is involved. You might think maybe they're just attentive, but attentiveness without attachment is temporary. Attachment turns attention into retention. Think about it. They don't just remember facts about you. They remember patterns, how your mood changes when you're tired, how you go quiet before you open up, how you smile when you pretend something didn't hurt. This means they're not just listening to your words, they're observing you. And observation without intention doesn't last. But attachment makes people study you subconsciously, not in a creepy way, in a deeply human way, because when someone is emotionally connected, their brain constantly asks one quiet question: how do I stay close to this person? Remembering details is one of the brain's answers. It allows them to comfort you better, understand you faster, feel closer to you without saying it. This is why they sometimes surprise you by saying the exact thing you needed to hear, even when you never asked. Sometimes they remember things you don't even remember saying. That's because when you spoke, you were just talking, but when they listened, they were connecting. Their emotional brain was switched on. Psychologists call this emotional encoding. When information is stored not as data, but as feeling. That's why when they think of you, they don't just think of your face. Here's the most important truth. People only remember deeply what they are afraid to lose subconsciously. Even if they've never admitted it, even if they act casual, even if they deny their feelings, memory doesn't lie. So if someone remembers the smallest things about you, the things no one else notices, you are already living somewhere permanent inside their mind. An attachment that deep doesn't fade quietly. Sign 2. They feel your emotions without you explaining them. There's a certain kind of connection. That doesn't need words. You don't say you're tired. They notice it in your voice. You don't say you're upset. They sense it in your silence. You don't say something is wrong, but they ask anyway. Psychology calls this emotional attunement. It happens when two nervous systems become familiar with each other over time, and it only forms when emotional attachment is present. When someone is deeply attached to you, their brain begins to track your emotional patterns automatically. Not consciously, not intentionally, instinctively. They know when you're pretending to be okay. When your laughter sounds different, sign 2. They feel your emotions without you. explaining them when your energy feels heavier than usual, and the strange part is, they often notice it before you do. That's because attachment sharpens perception. The more emotionally invested someone is, the more sensitive they become to subtle changes in you. Your tone shifts. Slightly, your replies shorten. Your presence feels quieter, and they feel it immediately. This is why they might ask, "Are you okay?" even when you plan to say nothing. And sometimes you'll respond, "I'm fine," but they don't fully believe you, because their emotional system already knows otherwise. Psychology explains this through mirror neurons, the part of the brain that allows humans to feel what others feel. When attachment is strong, mirror neurons become more active. Your sadness triggers something in them. Your anxiety unsettles them. Your happiness lifts them. Your emotional state doesn't stay contained within you anymore. And this is not something people can fake. Someone who is merely interested may listen to your words. Someone who is attached listens to your emotional signals. That's why when you pull back emotionally, they feel uneasy. Even if they can't explain why, they sense the distance. They feel the shift. And often, they try to close that emotional gap, not with big gestures, but with presence. They check in, they stay close, they offer comfort without being asked. Because when someone is attached, your emotional balance affects theirs. You being off makes them feel off. And here's the quiet truth. If someone consistently feels your emotions, it's because your emotional state matters to their sense of safety. You are no longer just a person in their life. You are part of their emotional environment. And that's deep attachment spoken without a single word. Sign 3, they struggle when you pull away even slightly. You don't announce it, you don't make a scene, you simply become a little quieter. Your replies take longer, your energy feels different. You stop sharing as much as you used to, and suddenly they feel it. Not because you told them, but because emotional attachment makes distance loud. Psychology explains this through attachment sensitivity. When someone's nervous system becomes alert, sign 3, they struggle when you pull away. Even slightly to changes in closeness with a person who matters deeply to the outside world, nothing has changed. But to them, something feels wrong. They may not confront you directly. They may not accuse you of pulling away. Instead, you'll notice subtle shifts. They ask more questions. They check in more often. This reaction isn't about control. It's about emotional security. When someone is attached, your presence becomes a stabilizing force in their inner world. So when that presence feels uncertain, their system reacts, even if they don't understand why. And here's what makes this sign powerful. They don't react because you did something wrong. They react because your emotional distance threatens something important to them. You matter. Your attention matters. Your warmth matters. Your consistency matters. That's why even small changes affect them. You might think, "I'm just busy. I'm just tired." It's not that deep. But for someone emotionally attached, it is that deep because their emotional comfort has become linked to you. They don't just miss talking to you, they miss the feeling you give them. And when that feeling wavers, they feel unsettled. Sometimes this shows up as insecurity, sometimes as overthinking, sometimes as a sudden need for reassurance. But underneath all of it is one truth. They are afraid of losing emotional access to you, not necessarily losing you completely, but losing the closeness, the familiarity, the connection that feels safe. People who aren't attached don't react to distance. They adapt easily. They move on without emotional sign 4. They find reasons to stay connected disturbance. But attached people feel the shift immediately, and even if they try to hide it, their behavior tells the story their words won't. So if someone changes the moment you pull back, even just a little, it's because your presence has already taken root in their emotional world. Sign 4. They find reasons to stay connected even when there's no real reason. This sign is quiet. So quiet that many people mistake it for coincidence. They don't chase you loudly. They don't demand your attention. They don't confess anything. They just stay. They message you about something small. They send a post that reminded them of you. They ask a question they could have Googled. They bring up an old memory randomly. And if you really think about it, there's no strong reason for them to still be there, but they are. Psychology explains this through proximity-seeking behavior, a natural response when emotional attachment forms. When someone becomes attached, their mind looks for ways to keep the emotional bond alive without risking rejection or exposure. So instead of saying, "I don't want to lose you," they say, "Hey, did you see this?" Instead of admitting, "I miss you," they say, "This reminded me of you." Connection is maintained indirectly safely. Snorts, because attachment makes people afraid of two things at the same time: losing the person, revealing how much they care. So they choose the middle ground: presence without confession. They stay in your orbit. They don't disappear fully. They don't let the connection die. They make themselves visible gently, consistently. Psychology tells us something important. We don't repeatedly think of people who don't matter emotionally. Repetition is attachment. So, if someone keeps finding reasons, small, ordinary, almost invisible reasons, to stay connected to sign 5, they protect you even quietly. It's because losing access to you would feel like losing something important they're not ready to name yet. Sign 5, they protect you, even quietly. Sometimes attachment doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself with words or gestures. It shows quietly in the ways they care without being asked. They notice when something is off in your life, a change in mood, a stressful situation, or even a small inconvenience. They step in to support, to defend, to ensure that you're okay, often without you knowing. Psychology explains this through the lens of emotional bonding. Humans naturally want to protect those they are deeply attached to. It's an instinct wired into the brain and heart. Your safety, comfort, and well-being become intertwined with their emotional state. You might notice small acts. They check in on you during a tough day. They subtly intervene in situations where they sense risk or harm. They prioritize your needs without making a fuss. They don't do it to impress others. They don't do it for recognition. It's not conscious heroism. It's subconscious care. And this protection often appears even when you haven't asked for it, because attachment creates a natural vigilance. Your emotions, your stress, your struggles matter to them more than they realize. When you're uncomfortable, they feel it. When you're threatened, they feel compelled to act. This quiet, invisible care is one of the clearest signs someone is deeply attached. Even conclusion, recognizing true emotional connection, when they've never said it aloud, it's their way of staying close, of showing loyalty, of silently saying, "You matter to me. I want to be here for you." Deep attachment doesn't always speak. It lingers in gestures, in attention, in care, and in quiet vigilance. If you've noticed these signs, understand this. Someone who truly values you will show it even when words fail. If this video spoke to you, like it to honor your own awareness. Comment below, "I see the signs now," and subscribe, because the next video will reveal what it truly means when someone is attached but afraid to admit it. Your emotions are meaningful, and recognizing them is the first step to understanding the depth of human connection. Thanks for watching. God bless you. Take care.